Hello and welcome to a view from the South Stand. It's finished Tottenham 0, Brighton 1 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today. Got a lot to discuss with the panel tonight, so let's get going. My first guest tonight is Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm all right, mate. I'm as good as I can be anyway. It's not great, but yeah.
So let's get started. Let's get into this now. You saw the starting lineup today, and obviously regular had come in for Doherty from different from last week. What was you expecting from today's game?
Well, obviously we all knew Doherty being injured, Emerson was going to come in, so that was a given. And then you know now, you basically know before the team comes out with no injuries, you know what Conte's team's going to be. You know the starting lineup. So obviously I expected Royal to come in. But what annoyed me the most today was it's annoying because it happened the week before, but in our favour, we didn't adjust to Brighton's game plan. Now, last week when we played Aston Villa, everything went through Coutinho. In that first half, everything Villa did went through Coutinho. And we got through that half. We got to half time. Conte made the change or adjusted, made a few tweaks at half time. We come out second half and we nullified and we completely shut Coutinho out of that game. And we went on and scored 3 goals, won the game comfortably. Today, for some weird reason, we just didn't adjust to what Brighton's game plan was. They pressed, they didn't give us any time on the ball, and we just didn't adjust to it. Like, what I don't understand is, we all know Conte's system is 3 centre halves, 5 at the back with 3 centre halves. We all know that, and we know that it's very rare that he will stray from 3 at the back. You know, he's won titles with it in multiple countries, and I trust it. I trust that system, and I believe it's a system that will take us forward and stuff. But it'll only take us forward if we've got the players that can play that formation. Now, I think the centre halves we've got at the moment are doing the job, and they are getting us through games. Romero is obviously, for me, standout. He's going to be there for the foreseeable. I think Dyer, although I've picked him up a lot on this throughout this season, has improved a lot, and I think he thrives in a 3 at the back. And I think Davis, that will be the position that we adjust in the summer.
Yeah.
But what annoyed me the most today is that he just didn't come away from 3 at the back. It was, I don't know why, but the wing backs, we all know as Spurs fans, them wing backs that we've got, whether it's, I mean, Doherty did play wing back at Wolves, but we know Emerson Royal, Reguilon, and I think even Sessegnon to a certain extent, they're not natural wing backs. Sessegnon, I think, is actually more of a winger. But Reguilon and Emerson Royal are just natural fullbacks. And I feel like at the moment, although it has worked in some games we've played, I feel that Conte is forcing a system, players that don't fit that system, and especially today, he just didn't seem to want to adjust it. Like I said to my mate who I was watching the game with today, got through the first half, and I said, right, we'll do 10 minutes in 10 minutes into the second half, and then if I was Conte, what I would do is I would have gone to 4 at the back. I'd have taken off one of them centre halves. I would have brought Bergwijn or Lucas, either or. I'd have brought them on, and I'd have gone to a 4 at the back, 4-2-3-1. I would have pulled Kane back into the number 10, because another thing we lacked today was we didn't have a player that could pick a pass. And we all know in that team, Kane is the only player really that can pick a pass from anything. So I would have pulled him back into the 10, and I probably would have put Son up top to play off of Kane, because we all know that their combination. And then I would have played Lucas or Bergwijn out wide. So I would have probably pulled off one of the offs and gone to 4 at the back. But I just don't understand why. When we're chasing a game, why do we keep 3 centre halves on the pitch? It just doesn't make any sense to me. You're chasing a game. We weren't even chasing it. It was 0-0. You need to get a goal. Why are there still 3 centre halves on the pitch?
Do you think that's a
It just
case of
didn't make sense to me.
yeah? Do you think that's a case of that he didn't trust the substitute bench more than anything? He didn't trust the players he was bringing on.
You could look at it like that, but at the end of the day, if it's not working on the pitch, sometimes you've got to take risks. And listen, we know that we need to improve our squad depth. It's something we've needed to improve on for years. But I would have just given the fact that we were the early kickoff. We had nothing to chase. So we were setting the standard for the weekend. I just think that 0-0 at home to Brighton. Brighton I know they beat Arsenal last week, but before that, they have been so poor for the last couple of months, and we beat them in that poor run as well. And I just think to not even have to just not adjust to it, it just baffled me, and it's so rare for Conte for that to happen. It's not happened for me since he's been here, where I feel like he's struggled and almost been lost and not known how to adjust to a game, which is baffling even for me to say that.
Does it not?
I just feel like he was just.
Did it not remind you a lot of Chelsea in the cup games where we just couldn't adjust and couldn't play, and he kind of didn't have an answer to it?
And also Burnley as well. Burnley away. This is the poorest I've seen us play since Burnley away. Burnley away, we were dreadful, and I didn't think we'd play like that again this season because I thought Conte wouldn't have it at all, and I wouldn't let it happen. But today it was even worse actually, Burnley, because it was at home. So it just baffled me, and everything looked forced. Like it just looked like we were rushing things. Like we've looked really in these 4 wins we've had on the spin. The one thing that we've had, which has pleased me, is composure. A lot of composure from the centre halves, Romero, composed, through to midfield, Bentancur, Højbjerg, both composed, going forward to the front 3, composure, all through the team. Today, it just looked rushed. It just looked forced. It looked like. Do you know what it actually looked like? It almost. I know I said a minute ago about us being first. I felt like being first. Almost, the players were like, "Right, we've got to do it. We've got to get the win. Got to get this. Got to do it." And they were just almost panicking themselves into making mistakes, and they were making simple mistakes, like simple passes that you could see. We're watching on the TV, so it's easier for us to say. But simple passes that these players were making in the last 4 games, they were going the wrong way. Like they were deciding to go to the left when they should have gone to the right, or there was a pass forward, they'd cut back and go, like they were being too cautious, they'd go back, start again. And I just feel like it's just very frustrating, given the way we played the last 4 games, to then go and do that at home. It was just very frustrating. But I say that it was all made easier by Arsenal losing and Southampton actually doing us a favour. Slightly, I said this earlier in our chat, it's slightly bittersweet. It's a bittersweet result because it's great that they've done us a favour and it's kept Arsenal at bay and it's kept it as it was. But it's very frustrating because we could have now been 6 points clear. So it's very bittersweet, that Southampton result. But there's not really much else that I could say of your frustration.
Were we lucky to still have 10 men on the pitch after, Decky and the elbow?
Very lucky. The second I saw that elbow come out, I was like, that's going straight to VAR. VAR are going to check that and they're going to tell the referee to go and check that on the screen. The second his elbow come out, I thought that is it. And even there was the commentators were saying, because he didn't connect with him. But for me, it was just the intention. I thought was just gonna because he's done that with the intention of hitting that player.
Yeah.
There's no other. He's not. It's not a natural thing for him to do. He's literally swung his arm round. His only intention was to elbow that player in the face. So I think we were very fortunate to still have 10 players on the pitch. Very fortunate.
Do you think Brighton's tactics were a lot to play with the way we played? And when I say that is, they looked at the Southampton and Wolves game where they put, both of them teams did exactly the same, pressed us high, got 3 in midfield, which meant that Bentancur and whoever else was in there couldn't actually move the ball as quick. Do you feel like that's what Brighton did today, or do you just feel like we weren't at the races? And also, they put Basuma on Kane, which I also noticed.
After that, Basuma is a good player.
Do you think that? And do you think Basuma being on Kane, they literally just snuffed out anything we did because we couldn't put it through Kane?
I think so. Yeah, you're right. That Basuma ran that midfield for them. He controlled the game. I think that they did well defensively was masterminded by him. If you took him out of that team, there would have been a massive hole in that midfield. He really kept the back end of the pitch tight. Yeah. I like the look of him. He was a good player, and I think it was a combination of the two. Brighton's tactics, they got their tactics spot on, and we, like I said, we just failed to adjust. And I didn't understand Conte's subs today. I didn't understand them. I didn't understand why Kulusevski came off. I understand why Lucas came on, but then I would have done what I said before attack and brought Lucas on to add more attacking. Yeah. Why did Bentancur come off, and why the hell did Harry Winks go on? We're at 0-0. We all know that Bentancur, okay, today wasn't his best game. I'll admit that he got caught in possession quite a few times and was lucky actually with a few of them. But he offers so much more going forward Rex does. And I don't understand why Bentancur came off so early in that second half for Winks. It made no sense. I don't and to take Son off. You're chasing a game that's 0-0. You know you need to win it. You take probably the well at the moment anyway with his form, our biggest goal threat off the pitch. And you bring, actually it was summed up because Bergwijn had absolutely zero composure with that chance right at the very end. When all he had enough time to take that down. And it just, everything about today, it just baffled me because it was just very unlike Conte to just not be able to adjust. Just very, very, it baffled me really did.
And having no shots on target. Against the goalkeeper, that's quite, and not having one shot.
Yeah.
What do you make of the front three today? Obviously, Kulu shouldn't have been on the pitch, after the elbow. But what did you make of Kane and Son, the two players that we probably needed to step up today? What did you make of their two performances today?
Well, do you know, it's performances like today that show that we still lack someone in our team who's gonna take the game by the scruff of the neck. Someone in midfield or someone anywhere at centre half on that pitch who is gonna get the players together during the game or at half time. Is gonna get them together and tell them how it is. I still think this team lacks that. There's players with that kind of potential. Players like Romero. I think Harry Kane has got that edge, but I feel like he's still too much of a nice guy. Højbjerg's another one. I just feel like these players like that we needed today to just step up and grab the game by the and just really show some proper leadership. Do you know what I mean? Do you know? I'm just we've lacked it for a long time. We've not really had a proper people are gonna think, but like how John Terry was at Chelsea, a proper leader. You know how Roy Keane was at Man United, proper leaders. Jordan Henderson, Liverpool, players that are gonna get into players during the 90 minutes and tell them how it is. I don't care if you're my friend. When we're on this pitch, we've got a job to do. I feel like we just lack that player that's just got that edge to tell a player on his team, I need you here, I need you to do that. That's not how you do it. Get the job done. I just think our team lacks that.
And looking at let's look at the top four race now. Obviously, Man United winning today, but they did beat Norwich. 3-2. Will it depend on next week's game between Arsenal and Man United, who our closest challengers are? Especially that Arsenal have got Chelsea, obviously, on Wednesday.
I just still don't want to put us in the driving seat. Just this weekend just proved it. Like, we lose, Arsenal lose, United win. Last weekend, Arsenal lose, United lose, we win. There's just so many twists and turns. It's stressful. It's stressful. I'm going to be grey by the time this top four race is done. Like, I really don't want to put us in the driving seat. I know the table puts us there, and looking at Arsenal's running, it puts us there. But I just think, given if United and Arsenal, it's them two playing each other has probably come at the best time, but come at the right time, because if one beats the other, I feel like it puts them out of the race, and then it goes down to two teams.
Yeah.
Personally, even though United won today, I just think if they lose, it puts them. Are they above Arsenal now in the league?
No, I don't think they are. I think they're on the same points. I think, or something. I think they're not that far behind.
Yeah, but I think if there is a loser, it could obviously easily be a draw.
Yeah.
But the loser of that game, I think, is then becomes a 2-horse race. But like I said, it's weird because at the moment we all know as Spurs fans, Tottenham have bottled a lot of things in the past.
Yeah.
The best thing about this top four race is that there's three teams that have made it a habit of bottling things over the last couple of years. Tottenham, pains me to say it, but we've bottled so much stuff over the years. Arsenal the same, and United just don't have the same mentality that they've had for many years.
Yeah.
So it's very intriguing. It's lucky for us we drop points, and then I kind of feel like, oh, it's okay because Arsenal might drop points at Southampton. United might drop points at Norwich. So it just kind of it fills me. That's what gives me the hope, is the fact that we're not. It's not like we're in a top four race with a Chelsea, for instance.
Yeah.
We're in a top four race with two other teams that are very, very capable of dropping points against teams you don't expect them to. 4 games ago, I never would have said Arsenal would have lost 3 on the spin.
No, of course. None of us would see it.
I said it on the channel. I said I couldn't even see us putting a stretch of games together of wins that they put together before these 3 losses. Then they've gone and lost 3, and we've won 4 out of 5. It just this top 4 title race it's gonna go to the wire. I think it's gonna go right down to that North London derby, but it is probably, since we were under Poch, 16, not 16, when we were in the thing with Leicester, was it the 15-16?
Yeah, 15-16
season against Leicester. It was that race there when it was sort of like we played an early kickoff, we would win. They would play the late kickoff, they would win, and it was a bit back and forth like that. This is exactly what this race is going to be like. There'll be one team that plays early, they'll win, the other team will win, and then one week they'll lose, and then we'll lose, and then it's going to come down to one fixture and one result, and that is that North London derby. I'm telling, unless United have an absolute worldie towards the end of the season, it's going to come down.
You never know.
To that.
They've got you never know with United, and that's always the key thing. And the last question for you of the night, as we always do on this thing. And
don't do it to me, Marlon.
Which player on that pitch today could come up with their head held high? I know it was a really poor performance, but
I don't even know. I think Romero was. He was.
Was it his fault for the goal as well? Was it his fault for the goal? Being out of position and giving the ball away, trying to do that in the box.
Yeah, you say that. Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. Really, I think that guy got into that position far too easy.
Yeah.
Far too easy. I'm not even going to give it to Romero, but I just think he was his usual solid self. He got his foot stuck in, but then also, like you said, out of possession. Højbjerg was kind of the same. He got important. He just didn't. He wasn't as composed as he's been for the last 3 or 4 games. He just seemed a bit lost. Really, he got tackles in, but then there was times where he looked like he could play a forward pass. He'd go backwards. The crowd would groan, and it just, I can't give anyone a man of the match, but them two probably were the only two I could really pull positives from. To be honest, Kane and Son weren't their best. Actually, they were well. Kulusevski the same. So Romero and Højbjerg really, for me, were the only two that sort of I could pull any positives from.
Ryan, thank you for your time today. Only bonus obviously is that Arsenal lost, but obviously Man United and Arsenal next week is going to be a big game for us in that race. But thank you for your time today. And as we always finish on with all our guests, come on, you Spurs.
Up the Spurs. We're still fourth. We're still fourth. So up the Spurs.
Yeah.
It could have been worse.
And I'll move on to my next guest today. My next guest I'm going to bring out today is Colin from Talking Ball. Colin, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I am good, thank you. I'm good considering the circumstances.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention that. Yeah, it feels like it was a long time ago. You know what I mean? That it's weird. That loss already feels like a long time ago, but it wasn't pretty, was it?
It wasn't pretty. So let's get into it. So when you saw the lineup today, and Reguilon came in for obviously Doherty because of his injury last week, what was you expecting from Spurs today?
I mean, man, I was in shows all last week just predicting a win. I was the Bob Spur 4-1, I think is what I even said. We never keep a clean sheet, but I was like, it's Brighton. We'll knock a couple past them. We've been doing that in the league, and nope, didn't work out.
Do you think Graham Potter's tactics worked really well for Brighton today? He kind of looked. How I saw it was he looked at the Southampton game and he looked at the Wolves game where they both put 3 in midfield, and they completely tried to boss us in there. Do you think Graham Potter tried to do exactly the same as what he did to Arsenal last week?
100% crowd the midfield out and then apply pressure to our players. Yeah. We can sometimes play against the press, but we sometimes can't. It's weird, and I think you actually hit the nail on the head when you mentioned the midfield. I think if we're playing against another midfield too, or we've got the midfield superiority, I think we can absorb that press a little bit better. Bentancur is like an important player for that. And he seemed off of it today. I had heard reports that he wouldn't be able to play because of an injury, so I'm wondering if he was carrying a knock.
That's why I wondered if he got substituted quite early on because of the knock. But yeah, considering it was kind of one of them, considering still, it's Brighton at the end of the day, should have seen a better performance of those players.
Yeah. I mean, you would think so. You would absolutely think so. But I've always said Graham Potter seems like a smart guy, and I think he got it right today. Bentancur and Højbjerg, their whole thing is that they're fairly strong players, that they win the ball back. There was none of that today, and since that's their game's not finesse. It's not let's thread the needle. Let's make it. Don't get me wrong, Bentancur can make some nice passes. Højbjerg floats a couple up there. But they're not number 10s. They're not Eriksen type players, or just for example. And so if they're not doing their thing, which is ball winning and ball retention, we're in bad shape, Marlon. We're in bad shape.
And Basuma seemed to be doing 2 jobs today. He seemed to be controlling that midfield, but he also made sure every time that Harry Kane came in, he was the man to mark him, which meant that Harry Kane basically didn't do much today. Do you feel like that was a big reason to why we just couldn't get going?
Yeah, huge. And I remember that we used to do that. We used to stick Dele on people and just have, he was just responsible for, tracking back and making sure like a dangerous player was marked at all times. Definitely was a big thing. I want to say thanks to him for not just like hacking at Kane's ankles the entire game. That would have been a pretty easy game plan for Basuma, but he didn't do it to his credit. So no ankle injuries for Kane at least. But no, You seem like you've already picked this game apart. You've got it all figured out, man. It was the midfield battle when we lost that. It was just it's hard to recover from. You don't have enough time to settle on the ball. You can't get a nice flow, a nice rhythm, and we were constantly on the back foot. It seems like.
And what did you make of, a lot of people were a bit worried about Royale today and Reguilon coming in. What did you make of the wing backs today? Were they part of the issue, or was it just a case of actually because our front three weren't getting the ball, it just meant everything we had our backs up against the walls. They literally snuffed out anything we tried to put in.
I think the wing backs definitely were an issue.
Okay, yep.
Reguilon for sure. Emerson, it wasn't his worst game that he's ever played. You know what I mean? There were some times defensively, I thought that he made some, especially defensively, that he made some good, recovery, like blocks and tackles. But if we're going to play in Conte's system and have the midfielders that aren't especially technically gifted, then that creativity has to come from somewhere, and it's the wing backs. And it just Reguilon has, he came out with a flash, and then he's not really impressed me, too much after his initial. There was a period where he was great. There might have been an injury or something in there, but then he just hasn't been so good. And I was hoping to see Sessegnon in the lineup. I really was. I've liked what I've seen from him. He seems like he's got more like attacking instinct. I think that comes from his time playing as a winger at Fulham. And I think it was said in an interview somewhere, I think by Reguilon, funnily enough, that Poch wanted his wingbacks to be like strikers in the box and to score goals.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it's got to be Sessegnon that you choose. He just seems to have better attacking instincts. He pops up in better places. It's a what if, but that cross fizz across the box today. He might have got on the end of that, man. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, the wingbacks were a problem. I can't decide. I mean, Emerson clearly isn't good enough, but I don't think that. Our wingback situation is not good. I'd get somebody new on either side if I could, but I know that that's not. We're Tottenham, it's not feasible to just go out and. Yeah, no, so, Derek, 100%, 100%, Derek. Yes.
What did you make of the substitutions today? Was you expecting them to be done a lot earlier? Was you expecting a formation change? What did you make? It was the three subs today were Winks, Bergwijn, and I can't remember the other guy.
Lucas.
Lucas. Yeah. That's how well he played. Lucas did try to give us something, but again, is he good enough to try and change the game is probably more the question. But what did you make of the tactics today in the second half, especially when the subs came on?
Sort of, I almost said Poch. Wow. But Conte was sort of hamstrung, I guess, by selection, by who he had to select. Yeah. If he was going to make a change in midfield, it was going to be Harry Winks. So there's a big part of me that says, hey, we were clearly being, overrun in the midfield area. So get another midfielder in there and maybe go to a back four. But then that option's Harry Winks. You know what I mean? And I mean, he's a body. He's somebody. But how much of an impact does that make? Does that change the game? Does that because then that back four, Romero hasn't played a ton in the back four. Dyer doesn't look great in a back four. So I don't think there's much difference that Conte could have done there. Like everybody else, probably, I feel like the subs could have came a lot earlier. It was pretty clear that we didn't have the answer on the pitch at the time to breaking them down, and so I would have thought that he would have gone to the bench a lot sooner than he did. But he's not the first Spurs manager to make very, very late subs. So something we're used to, but it seems, and I don't know. It's easy to play armchair manager for me and be like, "Oh, he should have definitely made." What the hell? What's Conte doing,
That's what
man?
we are. We're
managers. It's like he's won it all. But I still think, I don't know. I would have made the subs earlier. Would it have made a difference? Probably not. We saw when they came on, like you said, Lucas had a flash at the beginning where he seemed to have a lot of energy. I remember one especially like we just booted it out, and he brought it down really nicely, really cleanly out of the air, and then I think dribbled into somebody, passed it into nowhere. Typical Lucas stuff. Like he'll dribble past 3 players and then dribble into the 4th, and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, it was a super, super frustrating match to watch, and it sucks. And I talked a little bit earlier to Bob Spur, and he just kind of put it into perspective. And teams have bad days at the office. They teams have bad days. This table is crazy right now, and that's the thing I like about the Premier League in general. Though, I mean, you can't look at the table and determine who's going to win what. It's not an easy to look at the table and think of where everybody's going to end up, because on their day, Norwich almost at least split the points with United today. And I mean it's just more on Winks equals lose. Yeah, when Winks came on, I thought we were screwed. But yeah, so there's points up for grabs. We're not the only team that's going to drop points. Clearly, the game versus Arsenal is a 6-pointer. That's a really, really big one. Yes, you did hear me say that. Conte studied under me, actually. Tottenham class.
Couple questions before we talk about the top 4. Was Kulu lucky to be on the pitch today for how long he was?
I haven't. Yeah, I think so, man. That's something I didn't. I was so happy, and I was so worried that he was going to get sent off, that when he didn't get sent off, I was just like, thank God, I don't want to think about that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, let's pretend that never happened. Blah, 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 blah. But I knew once the referee had made his ruling and given him the yellow card, that then he was cool. Then that they couldn't go back in VAR after, right? I think that they can't. Yeah, only a clear and obvious error or whatnot. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, it looked rough. It definitely looked like a very intentional elbow swing to me.
So do you feel like that decision then swayed decisions not to send off? I forgot his name. The guy playing for Brighton, obviously. Dodgy tackles after he got booked. And do you think that kind of swayed into it? Because a lot of people I saw was moaning on social media about the ref, but actually,
you bring up you bring up a good point though. The point that you bring up, like about referees giving those, I don't want to say. It's sort of like I'm sorry, like I'll even it out. And that happens a lot when referees make a bad call. I hadn't really thought of that. I just thought that he was like shit, but maybe it was. That's a good. Well, you bring up a good point.
The reason why I asked that question is because if say Kulu does get sent off and then it's down to 10 men and we go down to 10 men and say they do get, it's both teams. Was it a first half where to go? Was it that nasty for both clubs to be down to 10 men? It wasn't that sort of game. So when you look at the Villa game last week where they were aggressive, both teams today, actually the referee probably tried to keep it 11-11 to try and keep it as fair as possible. So people see he's having a bad game, but actually, did we not benefit first from a decision that, let's be honest, if that was against us, we would be absolutely fuming as fans?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. You make another good point. You're a wise dude, Marlon. This is the first time I've been on your show, but all I do is just sit here and agree with you, man. Like, it's easy. This is easy.
You're not meant to.
Oh shoot! No. Then you're wrong. You're wrong about everything. So no, but that's honestly. I did a show right after the match.
Yeah.
I jumped on to Dermot's show, Tottenham Tantrum Gold, and was on there, and so I've already had a lot of time to think about this match and to process it and to kind of see the bigger picture. It was a bad day at the office. I'm glad. I knew we weren't going to win out, so if we had a loss in us, I guess let's get it out of the way, and then let's just keep firing. Arsenal lost. That was great. I was praying, but doesn't that sort of then to you, Marlon, feel like points like that we missed an opportunity since Arsenal dropped points, that if we would have,
So I'm going to ask you first, because let's look into the top 4 race, and I'm going to ask you a question first. So obviously Man United won today. does that bring them back into the race? And the reason why I'm asking is obviously Arsenal got Chelsea on Wednesday, and if Arsenal play like anything like they've done in the last 3 games, and Chelsea play, as they've been playing, hopefully Chelsea do end up getting a victory. Or if it's a draw,
only time I'll ever root for Chelsea. Yeah.
But what I'm looking at, there's a big game next weekend with Man United and Arsenal, which is an early kickoff. Now, if Man United were to win that, do they then become our closest challengers to this top 4 race? Because obviously, at the moment, top 4 is in our hands, which is probably, and for Spurs, that I've heard a lot of things going this week. It's 8 cup finals. Spurs not good at cup finals, or semis. So could it be quarterfinals, please, if they could? But it's a case of, are Man United now going to become the closest challengers, or do you still think it will go down to that game at the North London derby?
That's tough. We are still. I'm going to look at it real quick, but I haven't. So we are tied on. Wait, I'm an idiot. So we are. Yeah, we're just 3 points ahead of both Arsenal and United now. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That game against Arsenal is real important. Our match against Arsenal, the rearranged North London derby that they should have played when they had the chance. Why did they do that to themselves? I mean, I just can't understand what they thought.
They probably had a better chance then than probably what they would now. Now looking at it, they probably
Sonny was out. You know what I mean? Like that alone, that in and of itself is like reason enough. I would want to play Spurs when Son was out. That's for sure.
And we had no Bentancur, we had no Kulu at the time either.
Good point.
Romero was just about Romero's first game would have been the North London derby at the time, if I remember correctly. So it was a really weird one to why they, after one COVID test, wanted that one off. And they were probably, were both off form at the time as well. It was going to be one of them. But looking at the North London derby, is it a case of will it be done by then, or will it be Man United, or has this also brought West Ham back into it? Because we don't know what West Ham are going to do in the next couple of games either now.
I think we're going to get top 4, and I've been saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it. I think Spurs are going to get top 4, but it all depends on who's the more informed out of United and Arsenal, and this, in the end, who we're going to be battling with. But say Arsenal do lose to United, I guess that would put United as. I think United have more of like an X factor. They've got Ronaldo. I know that he can't always do it, and that he's getting older, can't maybe play every match, but they're only playing like once a week. So he's like a game changer, can completely change things. They don't even have to start him, and they can bring in Cristiano Ronaldo. Arsenal look really weak right now, and I know those maybe are famous last words, but they've got a pretty young squad. Yeah. They're in a really stressful situation right now. We've got at least some older, more experienced players that have been there and done it. Same at Old Trafford over, United. So I would love for that to be the case. I would love for United to be our rivals in this, so that we don't even have to talk to, we're not even thinking of Arsenal in the top 4 race. Like, that would be so cool. But we beat them in the North London derby, and then they're just toast, like done for. We can coast. It would be cool if that match itself didn't even matter. But I think winning today would have really helped there. But no, but
at least we can smile about it at the moment. At least we can all smile about it. So
I sure wasn't earlier, man. Oh man.
Yeah. So my last question of the night to you, and I always ask this question, and it's always a hard one when we lose. But out of all the players on the pitch today, of who played, which player do you think came off and they can still hold their head up high and go, actually, I did my part today? And I know it's really difficult because it was how bad it was.
Hugo made a couple saves. I know that he was at fault, or not at fault, but he, a goal was scored and he was the goalkeeper. But he didn't have a whole lot. I don't think that he could have done better in that scenario. He made some decent saves throughout the match. Kane didn't play poor. He didn't have a good game. Wasn't able to affect the match, but he didn't himself play particularly poorly. Yeah. It's a tough one. I can't say that a ton of our players have any reason to feel bad. Winks misplaced some passes as soon as he came in, which I kind of thought was hilarious. But it was just their game plan worked better than ours. Really nullified what we were good at, so it made us all look like rookies, everybody. But Hugo made some nice saves that kept us in it for a long time, and so I think Hugo's my player.
Colin, thank you for your time today, and thank you for making your debut on A View from the South Stand.
Yeah, man.
We always
Thanks
finish on.
me.
We always finish on "Come on, you Spurs," and I hope to have you on again in a couple of weeks, so we can hopefully see us in the top 4, as you said.
Sounds great, man. Come on, you Spurs.
And my next guest tonight is Hass.
How's it going, Marlon? Not too bad, my friend. Not too bad. Yeah, I'm having to talk to you from outside today because I'm out at a party, but I always got time for you.
Of course, man. Thank you very much. So, obviously, today it's finished 1-0 against Brighton. When you saw the lineup today and you saw Reguilon come in, what kind of performance was you expecting from Spurs today?
I think pretty much the same, if I'm being honest with you. You shouldn't expect too much to change just because we've got Doherty missing. And Reguilon still gives us a good option on that left wing and gets into good positions. Honestly, I thought we can sort of build on how well we've been playing for the last few weeks as well. So I was pretty much expecting the same sort of pattern, the same sort of play from us. But obviously, it wasn't to be today.
And looking at that first half, we didn't have a shot on target all game. We were nullified in that midfield, as we spoke about. But what did you make of the first half performance? What do you think could have changed?
First half, honestly, I thought it was Space Jam first half. Someone came in and nicked all their powers. Because honestly, from the first, I think it was the first minute, Kane took a shot or pass or whatever you want to call it, and I thought, wow, what's this? He had an option onto his right hand side with Kulusevski, who was making a run, and his shot was just absolutely abysmal. And I think we should have known from that point that it was going to be a terrible game. But yeah, I think the first half was one of the worst performances we've had in a very, very long time. It was dire. I mean, no shots on goal. The players didn't have any options going forward. We just couldn't get going. We couldn't pass the ball out from the back. So it was terrible first half.
And should we have been going into that in half time? Should we have had 10 men on the pitch? Should Kulu have been sent off, basically?
I mean, look, if I'm taking my rose-tinted glasses off, 100% yes. You just can't do that. I mean, in this, in the modern day and age, in modern football, you can't raise your hand. And what he did, if there was a connection there, he would have been off straight away. Let's be honest, because you can see there was intent there. I'm surprised VAR didn't have a look at it and sort of do him for intent. But we're very lucky to have 11 players on the pitch in the second half.
And do you think, I saw a lot of things on social media and everyone blaming how bad the ref was. But do you think that decision then influenced his decision later when the Brighton player should have probably got a double yellow? He should have been booked as well for second bookable offence.
I think it's always the same case when you've got a player who's on a yellow and he's going to potentially get sent off. The refs then always, more times than usual, they'll sort of let it go the other way as well. Because in my opinion, Mwepu, whatever his name is, he committed more than enough fouls to warrant 2 yellow cards, in my opinion. But yeah, I think having let off Kulusevski in that first half, I think it was it had a massive influence on his decision making after that as well, which was a shame because Mwepu he was just on a knife edge through the whole first half, which is why it come off in the second half.
And you know what? Let's not take anything away from Brighton. Do you think Graham Potter got the tactics spot on today?
100%. I mean, look, he stifled us today. He pressed high. He didn't allow our defenders to play out from the back. Bissouma, I think, done a good job looking after Kane. We couldn't get any runners in behind. I think you saw in the last few games where we just, the quarterback pass, I like to call it, nice long balls into the runners. We didn't even have that today. So they completely stifled us. I think his tactics were spot on, if I'm being honest. We just couldn't, find a way around them. Even second half when we changed it around, it was too late by then.
And what did you? A lot of people were a bit worried about obviously Royale coming in today and Reguilon obviously going to be on the left. What did you make of them two performances today? Do you think they could have done a little bit more? Do you think it was because there was nothing from the front three today, it was hard for them?
I think, the front three weren't performing today as well. We can't pin the blame on the fullbacks today. I think it was generally a really bad performance by the whole team today. Royale didn't do too bad. I mean, he had more defensive work to do than offensive today.
Yeah.
He was pinned back quite often, and in some situations he done quite well to get the ball out. But you can't blame them for the performance or the result. One thing I would say though, perhaps if it was Doherty in Reguilon's position today when that ball come across, I reckon Doherty would have tapped that in, if I'm being honest.
And their goal, who takes blame for that one? Do you look at Romero trying to dribble it out on his box, or do you look because he had no option, or where does that come from?
If you look at Romero's performance, I think he's one of the ones that didn't have a terrible game today. I thought he'd done all right. He'd done his job today. He wasn't particularly bad today. He's very comfortable on the ball usually, but it's there's something about our pitch sometimes. It's happened with Davies as well before, where they're just slipping and sliding all over the place, and then the player just gets in. I don't think it's 100% Romero's fault as well, but it's one of those things. We made an error in our own box and they capitalised on it, and you can't take it away from Trossard as well. He showed an excellent bit of skill to take the ball away from the defender and knock the ball in. So look, we can't take anything away from Brighton today. They played well. They played according to their tactics that their manager set out. We were just lethargic today. We looked like we played a couple of games midweek as well before this game.
Yeah. So let's talk about the big one. Obviously, top four race. After the game, before you found out the other results, were you feeling still confident, or was you thinking, "Oh my God, we need the results to go for us"?
I think we're living on a bit of a knife edge at the moment, if I'm being honest with you, because we're having other results go our way as well. With Arsenal today, we always knew that Southampton were going to put shift in today after that 6-0 drubbing against Chelsea. Obviously, it works in our favour, but listen, I think Arsenal's not the ones that I'm really worried about at the moment, because
this was
United
going to be my next question.
Yeah,
this was going to be my next question. Obviously, Arsenal got Chelsea, I think Tuesday or Wednesday. So theoretically, if they lose that, that's another defeat. But then there's a big game next week at the Emirates, which is Arsenal Man United. Are we looking, because we're in the driving seat at the moment, and I'm going to take it that you believe we're still in the hunt for top four, but do you believe
100%.
that? Do you believe that game is going to determine who our nearest challengers are?
I think massively. Those two playing each other means that we sort of have to take care of business on our side. We need to win our next game and capitalise on whatever the result's going to be during their game, because the way United can put on a run, I wouldn't rule them out from making a late charge for that top four. They're still very much in the mix now. They're below us by 3 points now.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks as well on Tommy's show. The goal difference is going to play a big part. That goal difference could play a very big part come the end of the season, and it could be valuable as another point. So I think the game between Arsenal and United is going to be detrimental, but also it might come down to our own game with Arsenal as well. Because
so my next, I've got another two questions for you there. So before we go on to the North London derby, say Arsenal beat Chelsea on Wednesday. Do they drag Chelsea back into it? Or is it a case of Chelsea of cement third?
I think it's a foregone conclusion now. I think Chelsea will be all right. They've got enough in their firepower sort of thing to get out of the sort of situation they're in at the moment, with the takeover, the whole Abramovich thing. It doesn't seem to have affected them that much. They played well against Real Madrid midweek as well. They were, Real Madrid, they were just better on the night in the sense that they come back in extra time. But Chelsea played well that night as well. So I think they're all right, to be honest. Even if Arsenal beat them, I think they'll be fine. That third place is going to be theirs.
And then coming back, so say, the North London derby now on 12th. So say if you're saying that you've obviously said just a minute ago, it's obviously going to be the most important game when it comes across. So I'm assuming you're thinking that Arsenal will probably beat Man United next weekend.
I think if they look, it's going to, personally speaking, I think it's going to be a bit of a barnstormer. I think both teams have to win that game. Have to go all out to win that game. Obviously, Arsenal's got the home advantage. United's got Ronaldo. Say what you want to say. He's got another hat trick today. For me, whoever wins that, you have to say they're going to be in the running with us. But we have to assume that we're still going to be there if we can win our next game. So it's not going to be easy.
Back against Brentford next weekend. Eriksen home. Eriksen playing against us as well, and he's seems to be turning the screw a little bit at the moment.
It's not these games. We could be playing anyone over these next few weeks, but none of these games are easy at the moment, especially with what's riding on it as well. Brentford, they've hit a purple patch at the moment, and I think they're going to be up for it. They're going to want to finish in the top half as well. Obviously, Eriksen, we know what he's all about. But I think it's going to be a really tough game. I can't really call it either way. But with Tottenham, expect unexpected. You never know what Tottenham's going to turn up. Today everyone was expecting the 3 points at home. We've been cruising for the last few weeks, and then we pull out a performance like that. So, Brentford will be looking at that thinking, yeah, we've got a chance next week.
Wouldn't surprise me if we lost to Brentford next weekend and beat Liverpool beat Liverpool in a couple of weeks. It just wouldn't surprise me, and Leicester and Burnley coming up as well.
That would be the Spursiest thing to do. Honestly, I wouldn't rule that out at all. And I can actually see that happening as well, if I'm being honest.
And the last question of the night before I let you go back to the party. I think I know what the answer is going to be, but out of all the players today, who, for you, actually could go have their head held up high and be like, actually, I did my part today. The rest of the team did do theirs.
Right, I'm gonna go with two players, not just one. I think first one I mentioned earlier, Romero. I think he didn't have a bad game, if I'm being honest with you. He went about his business, and he had a solid game. But the other one I'm going to go with is Hugo. You can't really put him at fault for that goal. He made a couple of saves as well. So those two, I think, can hold their heads high. But the rest of them, they just weren't at the races today. I'm sorry. Like I said earlier on, it's almost like a Space Jam scenario. Someone's come down, the aliens have come down, they've just taken their powers. They didn't look like they knew how to play football today. No. That's how it was. And honestly, it was a painful watch. So yeah, for me, Romero and Hugo today.
Thank you for your time. It's been
You're welcome, my brother.
Pleasure. And as we always finish on with our guests, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Let's go.
Anybody watching, don't forget to tune into Tommy's show tomorrow on the Hotspur Hood at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And then there's also Let's Talk Tottenham with Chris on Monday. And also not the 9 o'clock news with Tommy midweek as well. But as we finish on, as it's always been, come on, you Spurs.